Okay.
Texas is number one in foundation failures.
There's a large path of CH clay that runs up through North Texas up into Oklahoma. And if you've not done something to treat your foundation, you're going to get movement. Cracked walls in your house and foundation issues.
It injects water. Is that kind of like fracking? Isn't that damaging?
No, it's done in such a way that we go down in 6-inch lifts, so it's gradual. The water pressure does seep in and surround each rod. That's why they're on 3-foot centers. We've done experiments where we've been injecting and had trenches dug 10 foot deep, 10 feet away, and not have the water migrate.
Tell me the one thing that homeowners misunderstand about soil and movement.
Well, a lot of people will have a foundation company come in and treat their house. If you just treat the movement that you've had and don't do something to treat the actual movement.
All right, Todd, we are talking about all things soil stabilization, but before we jump into ProChem, I found some stats that are super interesting. I want to set the stage.
Okay.
Texas is number one in foundation failures. And right here in DFW, we are the third largest area in the country with foundation problems, foundation repairs. And then on top of that, nearly 20% of all homes in Texas have had some kind of foundation repair. And that ranges anywhere from $3,500 to $7,000 for moderate repairs, not even including, complete home lift, which I think in my situation, somebody quoted me, I think $50K.
Yeah.
And so I guess with all that, why is Texas soil so difficult to deal with for builders and homeowners, and how can they get ahead of it?
The main reason is because of the CH clay in our soil. There's a large path of CH clay that runs up through North Texas up into Oklahoma. And as it gets wet, it heaves and swells. As it gets dry, it contracts and shrinks. And if you've not done something to treat your foundation, you're going to get movement. And you're going to end up with cracked walls in your house and foundation issues.
Gotcha. So can you tell me a little bit what is CH clay? What does that mean?
It's a fat clay. It's very dense, and clay and water are attracted to each other. They're opposite molecules. So the water's attracted to the clay, seeps into the clay. It attaches to the lattice inside the clay on a microscopic level.
Oh, that's pretty deep.
That's what causes the swell.
So tell me about ProChem. Tell me about the history of the organization, and you're a family member. It's a family-run business. Tell me how it came to be and all that.
My dad, Bob Horn, originated the company ProChemical. My father had been in the excavation business for 20 years and had hooked up with an engineer out of Oregon. And they got together and pioneered soil injection, where we can treat the soil in place without having to do moisture conditioning, which is costly. It's expensive. It's time consuming.
Can you describe what moisture conditioning is?
Sure. Moisture conditioning, most of your geotechnical engineers that call for that will have you dig out 10 foot of soil beneath your foundation pad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
They will put that dirt back into the same hole in 6-inch layers. They'll compact it and moisturize it as they put it in and build it back up.
So 6-inch layers. So that's 6 times.
Yeah,
that's 20 layers.
20 layers.
Wow.
Going back in, compacted. And like I said, that's time consuming. What could take weeks, we can do in a couple of days without disturbing the soil. We can do it in place.
So can you describe the soil injection process? Like if I was a developer or if I was a builder?
We have hydraulic injection is what we call it. It's done with tractors, either a skid steer or a Caterpillar track loader that we use. Depending on the machine, it will have either 4 rods or 5 rods across the front of it. They're on 3-foot spacings. The bottom of each rod, much like a barber pole design and a swirl, we have 8 holes that go all the way around the bottom of the rod.
Gotcha.
The tractor is hooked up to a pump that is hooked up typically to a fire hydrant. So we're pressurizing that, and we're pumping about 100 gallons a minute of water into the soil. We do that, and we pre-swell it. Typically on our first day, depending on the house size, it may take several days on a larger foundation. But we'll go across it with just pure water out of the fire hydrant, pre-swell it, and then we have a stabilization solution that we use to go back over it again, and that's what has the process that ionizes the clay, changes the pH balance, and gives you a firm foundation. It eliminates the heave and shrinkage.
Wow. Okay. There's so many questions I have. So the first question is, when you say it injects water, is that kind of like fracking? Isn't that damaging stuff underneath the soil?
No. It's done in such a way that we go down in 6-inch lifts, so it's gradual. The water pressure does seep in and surround each rod. That's why they're on 3-foot centers.
So it's not like the water pressure is low enough, so it's just seeping in.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't travel a great distance underground. We've done experiments where we've been injecting and had trenches dug 10 foot deep, 10 feet away, and not have the water migrate that far.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I guess talk to me about safety, EPA, pH levels, because that just the name of your company might throw some people off. Chemical, you're injecting chemicals into the ground. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, there's not a lot of harm that comes from it. We have injected in areas where our runoff that goes in the ground comes back out of the ground and runs off of the pad. We've had that go into ponds, lakes. It's not detrimental to plants, animals, fish.
How about like safety with respect to pH levels?
Okay, the chemical that we use, the pH level of it is so close to water that there's no environmental impact from our solution. Again, it doesn't hurt plants. We inject next to trees, shrubberies. We do perimeter injections on existing houses where there's flower beds and grass. And again, there's no harm to any of the environment with that.
So tell me the one thing that homeowners misunderstand about soil and movement.
Well, a lot of people will have a foundation company come in and treat their house. And in Texas, it runs between drought and wetness every few years. And if you just treat the movement that you've had and don't do something to treat the actual movement, you're probably going to have foundation issues again in the future. Whereas if we come in, we inject before you build, that's going to eliminate all of that swell, eliminate that movement, so you don't have cracks in your foundation, your walls, cabinets, that sort of thing. You don't have a problem with doors opening and closing.
So with homeowners misunderstanding soil in general, what are the key indicators for them to know the difference between having their foundation repaired or having you guys come in and fix the soil before repair, or even hopefully fixing the soil to prevent a repair?
Right. If you've got an existing house and your foundation is moving, you're going to start having doors not open and shut properly. You're going to have cracks in walls. If you're at that point, you probably need to do something to treat the problem itself and not just fix the cosmetic issues. If you fix the cosmetic issues without treating the soil beneath the house, eventually you're going to have those same problems again as we go from wet seasons to dry seasons.
Right. So when when do they know when to have their foundation repaired? How big of a crack, basically?
Really, anything more than 1.5 inches of movement is going to cause a significant crack. And we can take anything from, say, an average of 6% swell, we can take that down to 1.2 inches.
Okay, so in layman's terms, what, 1.2 inches? That's
1%.
1%. Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. How quickly do homeowners see the results? How fast does it take to work?
It works really quickly, within 48 hours. Typically, when we inject, we can come back to a job the next day and we can physically see where the ground has moved, where we've injected.
Okay, so as a homeowner, just so I'm understanding, after you come in and do the injection, after, I think you just said after 48 hours.
Yeah.
I should be able to come in and start making cosmetic repairs on my house after that, right? Or do I want to wait?
We recommend that you wait probably 90 days after injection, just so that all the movement is gone before they come in and do your cosmetic repairs.
So when you do an injection, and you're talking about like a perimeter injection around your home, when you have that work done, how long does it last?
It lasts forever. We've been doing this 33 years, and you can go back to any of the work we've done. It's still there. It's still clean. One of the first companies we did work for is Poly America over in Grand Prairie, and to date, we've done over 1 million square feet of parking lot.
Oh, my.
They're running 18-wheelers across it, and their parking lot is still holding up all these years later.
Wow, that's very cool. Okay, I had no idea it was permanent. Is it a permanent solution?
It is.
That's really good news.
Yes, sir.
So do you guys come alongside foundation repair companies?
We do. We have some that we work with. There are other foundation companies, of course, that don't like us because we're taking away their repeat business.
So have you seen problems where somebody will fix a foundation and then a period of time later, the same house will have issues on the other side?
I've actually had that with the house that I live in.
Oh, my gosh.
My wife had foundation repairs done a number of years ago, and years later, we ended up with cracks in the walls again. So we've had to do a perimeter injection, and since then, that solved our issues.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So besides homes, what other stuff do you guys work in? I think I read on the website you also do like sports areas, sports fields?
We do work for schools, businesses. We do commercial work, everything from fast food restaurants, warehouses, office buildings. There's not much that we can't do.
I saw a video where there was a warehouse that had conveyor belts and stuff, robotics on the inside. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we've had some warehouses. There was one over in Mesquite, Texas that we did, and there was enough movement that it was impeding their robotics because the ground was moving.
Wow. And
they did shut it down in phases. And basically, they ripped out all of the concrete flooring inside the warehouse. We took tractors in, injected it, and they repoured the concrete.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It is.
So can you come in after the fact? Like, let's say this area right here, if I was doing some serious, how do you?
There's two ways of doing it, depending on the amount of movement. If it's major movement, we would probably have you remove the concrete. If it's a specific area, you've just got one corner, we can actually drill holes through the foundation. We do that a lot on existing swimming pools and pool decks that have movement where we'll go in and just drill right through the concrete and stick our rods through those holes and come back and patch the hose when we're done.
Wow, I did not know that. So that's really cool.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about pools. So how you go into the belly of the pool?
Yes, sir.
And you inject. How do you know how deep to go for the pool?
Typically, the geotechnical engineers dictate the depth. of the injections. Swimming pools average probably 7 feet. Some of them ask for 10. We just looked at one down in Austin over the weekend, and they're going to drain the pool, have us shoot the entire belly of the pool, as well as a lot of the decking around 75% of the pool.
So when you say you shoot the belly of the pool, what is the spacing? How do you, or is that based on geotechnical?
A lot of times the geotechs will have a preference. If there's no preference, we typically like to do 2-foot centers on hand injection. So basically like a checkerboard, every 2 feet in every direction, we're going to drill a hole for injection.
So can you tell me a little bit about hand injection? What does that mean? I mean, I get it. I'm guessing you have one device with a rod in it, right?
Sure. We have water pumps basically hooked to a tank that we can, again, mix our solution in with the hand injection. And it's a lot like a car wash wand, if you would. It's got a ball valve instead of a trigger. And the rods are, again, either 7.5 foot long or 10.5 foot long. That we would manually push into the ground under your swimming pool or driveway, whatever we're working on. You're
pushing the rod, and at the same time, the pressure of the water is allowing it to go deeper, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. And you do the same thing. You go you come up every 1 feet?
Yes. Yes. We do it going down, actually.
Okay. That is very cool. I'm sure many pool owners will be very happy about that.
Yes. We work with several pool builders in our area and even down, like I said, in Austin, San Antonio. We do work in Houston, pretty much anywhere in the state.
Okay, so let's talk about like big construction, like developers are doing, 500 to 1,000 homes in an area, which actually we're in Forney right now, which I believe maybe last year it was one of the fastest growing cities in America, right?
It is.
So that's crazy. That's great for you guys.
It is, right? Indeed.
So tell me about the process with geotechnical engineers and how you figure all that out.
Okay. Most of your developers say if you've got a 500 or 1,000 acres of land that they're going to go in and develop, those developers will contract with a geotechnical engineering group. They're going to come out with a machine that pushes 3-inch Shelby tubes into the ground, take them out in 1 foot increment samples, and they'll take that back to the lab, process it, and tell us how much swell is in the ground, as well as they can tell us what kind of soil is in the ground. If it's clay, if it's rock, lime, shale, there's a lot of different stuff in the ground in Texas.
Gotcha. So you take that information. Well, they determine how deep you should go based on their reports. Yes.
They will recommend most injection is typically 10 feet. That's been the standard for years and years. There are some that do 12 feet and others that require 15. And 15, we've got a couple of rigs that will do 15.
When the geotechnical reports come back and you adhere to what they're suggesting, do they come back out after the fact and retest?
Yes. Typically, most of the geotechnical engineers will want to wait 48 to 72 hours after we've completed a job. They'll come in, again, with a boring machine using 3-inch Shelby tubes, take those samples out just like they did beforehand, and they will take that sample back to their lab, and again, they'll put it in a jig that measures the amount of swell in the soil once we've completed our injection. Our goal is 1%, which is 1.2 inches, and we reach that 95% of the time on the first go-round.
Okay, and so if it doesn't work on the first go, you just run it again?
There are times where we may not get all of the swell out in a particular area in depth, and anything over 2%, we would go back in and retreat it and shoot it again.
Cool. So I guess the underlying point to emphasize is that you'll always make sure that you are at 1%, right?
That's correct. We recommend to all of our builders, our customers, that they do test, and the majority of them do. There are some tract home builders that trust us that we've had, 10-year relationships with that may not test every lot. They'll test every other lot. But we do recommend testing just to prove that we did what we say we do.
You don't just come in with a rig. You have a whole process. I think I saw you guys put, what is it called, silt fencing in? Why would you do that?
Silt fencing is designed to keep the silt, not the water, as a lot of people think, but to keep the muddy silt out of either a adjacent neighbor, sidewalk, streets. The cities do not want silt going into their sewer systems. We'll put up silt fence, gutter guards to ensure that doesn't happen.
Okay, so when you're injecting water and or solution into the ground, does some of it come up, or how does that work?
Sure. And that's typically what our operators are looking for. We call it refusal. When you're pumping 100 gallons a minute through 5 rods, that's 20 gallons per minute per rod. That's a lot of water. The water does go into the ground and absorb, but there is a good amount of it that will travel back up the hoe, or it may come up in a hole that we did 3 feet away.
Right.
But that's what our operators are looking for. When we shove the rods into the ground, we start out at about a 2-foot depth and begin 6 inches going down to whatever depth the geos have asked for. And we watch to see how it refuses. A lot of times you'll stick rods in the ground and you don't see any refusal. That tells us that we're getting the water where it needs to be.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the industry in general. Prior to injection, which I think is the standard right now, right?
That's correct.
Wow. What was the history? How did you guys have to, what was the process of teaching people about this process?
My dad had a real hard time in the early days. The first 10 years, it was kind of like snake oil in the olden days. People had been using lime. They'd been doing moisture conditioning, using a massive amount of select fill, which has 0 swell in it, to build up their foundations.
So when you say select fill, just so I'm understanding, I'm surmising, but select meaning it's actually a specific type of dirt, right?
It is. It's a lot like a sand, and it compacts well, but it has no movement in it whatsoever. There's no clay in the select fill.
And that can get expensive, right?
That can get expensive.
Gotcha. So your dad had to go through the process?
He did, and eventually it took about 10 years, those first 10 years. My dad had no competitors. Today there's well over 100 applicators in the DFW market doing what we do. And they basically have looked at what we did and copied it, and that's how we've got competition now. Injection is a industry standard now. It's quicker, less costly than moisture conditioning. So it's a very good alternative.
If I ask somebody about soil stabilization, they're clueless. I would say 95% of the people that I run across have no idea what that means. What's happening in society? Are we doing anything to get that word out?
We are. There's advertising. We go to trade shows and do our best to educate people everywhere we can. A lot of times on our jobs, neighbors, residents will come up and ask about what we're doing and our process. And a good deal of our business is on word of mouth from that, where people are just curious, and we love educating them.
Cool. And so what kind of businesses do you guys work with? I think, let me rephrase the question. So you have tract home builders, you have custom home builders, you have
Correct.
Developers, and you have individual homeowners. Are there custom home builders that don't know about soil stabilization?
Probably not a lot of them if they've been in business for any amount of time. It is such an industry standard now that I think especially your custom home builders are more apt to do the injection than anyone else.
Okay, if we can talk about pricing a little bit, I would love to get some input.
Okay.
I've heard that, foundation repair can cost, in some instances, maybe, $20,000 or even $30,000, like
Sure.
for a complete, where they lift your whole house up.
Right.
How do you guys come in?
Typically, we're going to come in at about 10% of something like that. If you've got a 5,000 square foot house, we'll measure your linear feet all the way around it. And that's how we charge. But in the big picture, what we're doing is minimal in your total foundation repair. Your foundation company is going to come in and fix it, but they want to come back again in 5 years.
Right.
If we come in and fix it, they're going to get one shot at making it right for you because we've eliminated the problem from happening again in the future for you.
Okay, so you guys have been in business for a super long time. Over the years, what advancements have you made? What have you learned? How are you making like a better, bigger, faster, stronger process?
I got you. In the early days, we had big stand-up tanks that we would park beside our pump units. We would pump water from the fire hydrant to the tank, and we did that simply so we could mix our stabilization solution in the tank when we got ready to shoot it into the ground. And we've learned that over the years, we don't need those tanks. We now have dosing pumps, and we shoot our solution into the pump on the outbound side. So it's eliminated that. That saved us 30 minutes every hour waiting for that tilt tank to fill up. We've just found that there's a lot of ways that we can have created efficiencies so we can do things quicker. And less costly for the customer in the end, and still make a profit and run a good business.
Todd, that was really cool. Appreciate you talking about all things dirt with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim.